Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Raz.
Okay, what is going on?
We're still
Field
in
one.
field one, and there's also this English ryegrass that's
Yeah.
pretty common.
Yeah,
And this version of Timothy, it's
Yeah.
Fjell Timotei, it's
Yeah.
a northerly version.
yeah,
It's not so common. And then if you sort of part the high grass, you see how high it is here. You see that there's a lot of the lady's mantle and the dandelions
yeah,
in the bottom here that
Yep.
got a lot of light during the spring,
Yep.
and now they're just hidden in the base.
yeah,
And a lot of, I thought there weren't so much thistles here, but when you walk around and you part the grass, you see a lot of thistles coming up.
yeah.
So you really have to look closely to get a view of what's actually growing. It's
Yeah.
deceptive when you just look at
Yeah.
the highest grasses.
Also, when we were flying drones earlier in the season, we saw all of the other plants coming up before the grasses were dominating. So
Exactly.
it's quite a continuous evolution of the entire community ecology here.
Yeah.
And the other thing we notice is all these clumps of clover, right?
Yeah.
And we don't know if the clover is actually growing from a pile of dung that was left from last year, or is it growing next to it? Because
Maybe not so, since they're nitrogen fixing, so they don't need so much nutrients.
exactly, so that's the thing we would love to test. Remember, we had these Poisson processes of how the models of how the cows were shedding.
Right.
So it would be really nice to have a very detailed map so we could actually go back and then analyze these kinds of things.
We've also learned that surprisingly little is known about which types of seeds survive and are spread by cows, and which are, ruined through passing through the digestive tract.
Yeah.
So supposedly some grass seeds are spread with cow manure,
Yeah.
and that would make sense. It would be really cool if the species that they like eating are also species whose seeds survive the digestive tract, so
Yeah.
that they can be spread
Yeah.
and promoted by the cows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's this time of season. It's difficult to tell where the cow patties were and what came out of them.
Yeah.
That's something for the early part of the season.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think a more detailed map would be great, but with the drone we have, we're not able to do very accurate positioning. So we need a more specialized drone and some more triangulations and so on to get the exact position correct. But for now, just observation is more than enough for generating falsifiable hypotheses.
We also have Midsommarblomster here. That was quite dominating when it was flowering, actually.
Yeah.
But we had very little cow's parsley on this field.
Yeah.
That was completely dominating on field 3 at
Yeah.
some point during June, but here it was almost completely absent.
Yes.
A little bit of the Filipendula ulmaria there, only like 4, you see those 4
Yeah.
white flowers
Yeah.
there? Also very rare in this field, and they like very high humidity.
Yeah.
So this has good drainage, this field, so it's probably too dry for them.
Also, you can see the fescue is dominating on this side of the field 1
Yeah,
a lot more.
Especially here in this
here.
quadrant.
But on this side, you have the ryegrass and
The Timothy's.
Timothy
Yeah.
and so on dominating, which is also quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been noticing a lot of pollinators, and of course quite a lot of mushrooms as well growing here. There's some thistle seeds about to be dispersed.
There's 2 different species of thistle here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these flowered already in June, I think, so they're dispersing now. These are later flowering. Some buttercups, but they're also pretty rare.
On this field 1, yeah.
Yeah. And this Fibla, a big family of plants.
Yeah.
They're also rather rare.
Yeah. And I think one of the sort of dream projects is to try to map the plants down to the coordinates and then try to make various projections of various soil mineral deficiencies or abundance based on which plants are thriving in different parts. So one can actually use this information to do more targeted precision bionutrient amendments so that we can alter the soil substrate in a precise way based on the plant community structure itself, right?
Exactly, because we've learned that different species thrive under, of course, different soil conditions in general, but also they're good at extracting various microminerals from the soil. So if the soil is depleted in calcium, you might have a species that's very good at extracting calcium, probably in symbiosis with bacteria or fungi. So that species will tend to dominate there. So you can use that information simply of what species grows where and what minerals, what micronutrients is this species good at absorbing. So you use that information to see what soil amendments you would need on a micro scale.
And as cows and other ruminants digest these materials and shit everywhere, they're basically spreading the minerals more homogeneously as well, right?
Yeah, and I wonder actually how this varies over the season, because the plants might also accumulate different things during their life cycle, right? Once their time to flower and to set seed, they might accumulate something slightly different than when they're growing leaves in the beginning of the season. So when you time the grazing in the season might also, not just for whether they eat the plants before or after they flower, you know, but also in terms of what micronutrients and phytochemicals in the plants are they actually spreading with their manure.
Yeah, exactly. So, unfortunately, when we see some of the neighboring fields, they are fertilized with
artificial fertilizer, and sometimes a combination. So they might take, our neighbor actually is taking 4 harvests of ley per year.
Yeah, so some of the farmers under various economic pressures are actually growing grasses with such intensity that they hardly have any pollinators. Plants are not ever allowed to reach a flowering stage, for example, and it's quite extractive, and it is difficult to imagine how the grass they're taking is going to even have any serious nutritional content for the
We'll have
animals.
the macronutrients, but when it comes to the micronutrients, that's a very good question. And basically land is the limiting resource, right? If they had 4 times as much land at their disposal, they would probably just take 1 harvest seed a year.
Yeah.
So,
and because we're not able to tell the value of the meat itself, it becomes very difficult, because one can grow a lot of kilograms of meat by harvesting intensively using fossil fuels and various poisons and toxins and so on. But we can't really we don't have a way of putting the real value of a highly nutrition dense meat that's grown from lands that are super diverse, and that is kind of a fundamental problem at the current point in time.
Unless we have nice handheld nutrient density meters that would measure this in a feasible, affordable way that you could verify the meat.
But the meat we are selling is actually quite good, and it's cheaper than what you can get, because we've done the calculations, and more than a third of the money is not going to the farmer or the butcher.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of margin to even mail the meat to customers.
Yep.
But selling locally is our current plan. So.
Yep.
Okay, so now we will go on to field 2 and make some observations, and then on to field 3.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Bye.